Hello friends, welcome back to the bench. Our patient today is a 2008 Subaru Forester. Let's actually pull up the ticket because there were some interesting things in it. So this is non-turbo and it loses the injector number 1 signal, and that was traced back to the ECM. It tends to run good cold, but after it's warm, it may run good for 5 minutes or all day. Yep, that's typical issue for Gen 3 Subarus, unfortunately. And the reason for that is the IC608. IC608 is this little guy, and it needs to be resoldered and the problem will go away. So, and we're gonna perform a 5-minute repair on it. It is called 5-minute repair because it takes about an hour. However, someone said that this is 5-minute repair, so maybe they're right. I haven't seen it yet. If someone does that in 5 minutes. And you see those little white marks over here? What is that? I haven't seen anything like that before. Huh. It's weird. Anyways, while we're doing the repair that you've seen many times, let's talk about the cars again, since it's kind of what we do over here. But this time, hydrogen cars. You probably read the title, and the title goes something like, hydrogen cars will never happen. It will never be a thing. You'll never drive a hydrogen car that you purchased from the dealer. It's pretty strong statement, and I realized that I might be proven wrong in the sense that exactly that will happen. Because let's face it, even unpractical inventions sometimes are really actually pushed onto the public. And the last useless invention that I can think of is, what was it, the flamethrowers? Who needs a flamethrower? Like, come on, it's just common sense. Who wakes up in the morning and says, oh, I really wish I had a flamethrower? Yeah, exactly, to do what? What would you possibly need a flamethrower for? The Hyperloop. Again, dumb idea, but it got plenty of funding and some real engineers tried to make it work. It's kind of the same thing as, you guys remember Concords? The supersonic planes, passenger planes? Because there was the question, someone asked me, like, why do we still are on subsonic planes? Why do we still use subsonic planes instead of supersonic planes? Why did Concorde technology die? Well, it's not about the technology, because technology worked, and technology, allows us to to travel supersonic speeds, and it must be awesome. You board the plane in Warsaw, 3 hours later you're in Atlanta. It's awesome. I'm not sure about the exact time. Maybe it's a little longer, but at the moment, if you board the plane in Warsaw and you want to land in Atlanta, that's gonna take you 8-9 hours, maybe more, depending on the weather conditions. So, yeah, that sounds like an awesome idea, to have planes that move that fast. Well, not to mention, of course, the SpaceX idea of the of the rockets. So basically, Concorde number 2, the second approach to Concorde supersonic flight idea. Obviously, it would never work. it's even worse idea than Concords. At least Concords did fly. You know, they did carry a few passengers. Then one of them exploded, and that was the end of Concorde. So yeah, it's practicality of it. With hydrogen, well, you know, is it a green technology? Yeah, it is. Just like electric cars. Yeah, they're good for environment. And yeah, I understand that the majority of the electricity you put in your car comes from fossil fuels, unless you literally have the solar panels, like a big farm of solar panels, and that's how you charge your car. Then you're, you know, carbon neutral. Then it's really good for the environment. But even if you use fossil fuels, you know, electricity coming from the fossil fuels to recharge your car, that's still better for the environment because that energy production is more centralized. And electricity is coming from the power plant, and power plants, you know, hire competent people to maintain the power plant. They, you know, they need to adhere to regulations and stuff. They need to go through inspections and all that stuff. So it's always going to be better than you producing energy in your engine of your car, right? And especially here in US, the rules are not as strict as in Europe. So you don't need to do, at least in the majority of states, because I know some states do that. You don't need to go through the inspection every year and pay for it. And obviously, every inspection is going to reveal something that you have to work on. But that's, you know, I'm actually all for that. You know, having cars that are leaking oil and, you know, no catalytic converters and like burning oil and, you know, white smoke, black smoke from the exhaust pipe. That's not good. But you know, it's our freedoms in this country, I guess. But that energy is more centralized. So even if you charge your car from fossil fuels, it's still better. It's still better. It's kind of the same if you considered everybody who uses electricity now is going off grid and use the gasoline generator in their backyard. That wouldn't be good for many reasons, but most notably the maintenance of your generator, right? You're not going to hire expensive engineers and technicians to maintain your power generator, right? So that would not be good. So centralizing the energy production is a step in a good direction. And with hydrogen cars, it's pretty much the same thing. It's just different energy storage, but it's still energy storage. The hydrogen does not appear freely on our planet, right? So it's not like you can just extract it or like gather it, dig it from the ground like you do with coal or oil, right? The oil still needs to be refined, obviously, into gasoline. But there's a lot of energy in the gasoline. In hydrogen, well, there's... I haven't really compared the energy density or, you know, calories, whether the gasoline is more caloric than hydrogen. But the energy, just consider this, the energy stored in the gasoline took millions of years to gather, right? It took literally millions of years for that energy to be stored in the oil or coal. So naturally you're not going to replace it with any process that will give you the same energy density, and you just create it on, in days or hours or weeks or even months. That's just not going to happen. All right, let's get the chip off first. If you asked me many years ago, before electric cars actually made it into consumers' hands, if you had asked me, I would think that electric cars wouldn't happen either. And why not? Pretty much the same problem. Consider how many gas stations do you have access to? How easy it is to refuel the car with gasoline. Alright, so it's all about the infrastructure. To make the electric cars feasible and usable, you need the same infrastructure you have for gasoline cars. No way around it. Otherwise, the electric cars will always remain a short distance cars. Basically, the city, for use in the city. Going to work, coming back from work, charging, and after work or charging at work. Many offices have the outlets to charge the electric cars. That is great. Especially if that energy from work is free. I worked in a company that had that, and yeah, it's not like you had to pay any fee or anything. It just, if you have electric car, you can charge it at work for free. But first you need to be able to afford the electric car, which I have not. So it's not like it makes a difference for me personally. But I do appreciate the green aspect of electric cars. Again, even if the energy comes from fossil fuels, it's still better than gasoline cars. But it's not practical. It's not like you're gonna traverse Wyoming using an electric car. Then, of course, winter time brings the whole new set of problems, because low temperatures are not exactly the friend of electric cars. So, as long as you have infrastructure, the idea is viable. So that was my concern, that the electric cars are not gonna happen just like that, because you have to build a huge infrastructure to allow people to actually use them, and that's on top of all the technical difficulties of actually owning and operating a electric car, maintaining an electric car. And that's the worst depreciating asset you can think of. So with hydrogen, what is the main problem of hydrogen? It's not just like for the Concorde technology worked and it was great, it just economically didn't work. For every hour in the air, Concorde had to spend, I don't remember what the ratio was, but many hours in maintenance. So that was crazy expensive to maintain that plane, and they still messed it up because it still exploded. So even with all that maintenance, it still wasn't enough. With hydrogen cars, You know how they work, right? The technology is sound, right? They do work. You extract hydrogen, say from water. That's one of few methods. Some of those methods are more green, some are less, but in any case, it's the same, same thing as in electric cars. Once you extracted hydrogen from, say, from water, then you pressurize it into a small canister, and that pressure is around 700 atmospheres. 700 atmospheres, roughly. That is crazy pressure, absolutely ridiculous pressure. The gas itself is extremely volatile. It reacts with, well, pretty much everything. But the worst part is reacts with oxygen, and in the ratio, I think it was 1-to-1 ratio, I don't remember, but in certain ratio, when it mixes, it self-ignites, it just explodes. It's very dangerous material, very dangerous element to be playing with. But that's not even the worst problem of hydrogen. It's also the smallest element out there, and also most abundant. Right, so you might think it's cheapest because there's the most of it, but that it doesn't appear freely in the environment. So you still need to put in a lot of energy to extract it from whatever you want to extract it from. But since it's so small, storing it is pretty much the same problem you have to store energy, right? It's not very efficient to store energy, electrical energy. Storing electrical energy in hydrogen is actually more efficient than storing it in lithium batteries, but it comes at a cost. And the cost is storing 700 atmospheres in your car of very volatile, explosive element. And since it's so small, there's no way to seal it perfectly. Right? It'll escape even so any kind of seals, like regular seals like you use on the gasoline car, right? The fuel pressure is anywhere from like at least 10 bar to maybe 50, 60, 70 even bar. But that pressure is only on the fuel rail, so there's not a lot of fuel in there. Fuel pump, as soon as you turn the ignition, you hear the fuel pump creating the pressure. So because you need pretty high pressure of the fuel, so the fuel injector sprays correctly. If the pressure is too low, then the fuel injector will not be able to spray, because fuel injector is not a pump, it's just a solenoid that opens and closes. So it relies on the pressure created by the fuel pump in your gas tank. So only that route, or that rail between the fuel tank and the injectors, that's the pressurized part. So that can depressurize. If it depressurizes, the gasoline just sprays on your engine and immediately catches on fire. There might be an explosion, small explosion, to pop your hood of the car. It might be the case, or it will just catch on fire, because it's not the gasoline itself that burns, it's the gasoline vapors that burn. There's not enough how do you call it? Well, there's not enough mass in the gasoline itself to ignite. It needs to evaporate, mix with air, mix with oxygen in the air, and that's when it ignites. And it can also explode in a way. The fumes, if you build up fumes, well, that's why this is used for internal combustion engine, right? We want it to combust. So yeah, it's combustible. It's explosive in a way. Same. Have you ever used gasoline to like, I don't know, speed up lighting up either barbecue or or the coal oven, or I don't know. If you're not careful, you can lose your eyebrows, because there will be a massive, massive ignition. Maybe not explosion per se, but pretty aggressive ignition, and that can take away your eyebrows. So, the diesel fuel is much better for that purpose. But even better is just using the paper and proper kindling. Using fuel and to speed up the process, that's for lazy people. If you set up your fire properly, you shouldn't need any stuff like that. But if you have wet material that you want to burn, then yeah, you need to create high temperature pretty quickly, and yeah, that's when the gasoline or diesel comes in handy. So you cannot seal the hydrogen the same way you can seal the gasoline, even under, well, especially under huge pressure, because we're talking 700 atmospheres. That is crazy pressure, absolutely crazy pressure. And nothing in our current cars uses such huge pressure. Nothing. There's about 2 bars in your tires. There's maybe even 100 bars on the fuel rail on some cars. Because yeah, I think Subarus use like 25, 27 bar on the fuel rail, and that is considered pretty low. Other cars use higher pressures, but nowhere near 700 atmospheres. So that is like concern number 1. And concern number 2, it's a small molecule, very small molecule. In fact, it's the smallest molecule, or smallest element. So it will always try to escape, and there's nothing you can do with that. So all the seals and everything, they're not gonna hold hydrogen. The hydrogen was gonna be leaking. So you need huge, very sophisticated canisters to hold it. But even then, it's not the mother of seals. The hydrogen will, the hydrogen is small enough that it will just start fusing with whatever metal is holding it. Say it's titanium. And as it fuses with that metal or whatever material you used for sealing it, it changes properties, right? It might become more brittle. So that's the problem of, once you actually do develop the canister that will hold hydrogen, it will likely have to be replaced, I don't know, maybe every year, maybe even less than that, maybe every few months. Even if it's every year, once a year, which doesn't seem too bad, But now consider that probably every month you have to go for the inspection, because you don't want to have leaking hydrogen cell in your car. I think that's what happened to relatively recently. The bus exploded. The hydrogen bus exploded. It was likely, I don't know. I don't even remember where it was. I don't think that was in the U.S., but I don't know. What likely happened is there was a leak, and that's the big problem of hydrogen. Once there's a leak, the hydrogen keeps escaping, and all it has to do is mix with air at right proportion to ignite, to explode. So that is pretty dangerous, if you ask me. That is pretty concerning. Which means the maintenance of it is huge. So it's the same problem the Concorde had. It's not that it didn't work, it's just economically it didn't make sense. So now for every hour of using the car, you need to spend, say, an hour on maintenance. Maybe not that bad, but depending on the engineering, because it always comes down to the engineering. Just like with electric cars, it was not easy to develop an electric car because of the engineering problems. They struggled a lot with actually making it work, making it practical, making it drive for 100 miles without overheating, without exploding, without catching on fire. And still the electric cars are not mature enough for me to consider them safe. I will not let my son in one of those cars. The risk is too high. And as always, I consider the worst case scenario. What's the worst case scenario with gasoline car? Worst case scenario, I would think that fuel rail depressurizing, and the fuel just spraying on your engine, catching on fire, maybe slight explosion, but that's it. You just stop, you open the door and you leave, and the fire department can put that out in the matter of 20 minutes once they get there. With electric car, once the battery starts burning, it keeps burning. Since in the majority of those cars, especially Teslas, everything to work, everything requires energy, electrical energy. So you might find yourself locked in the car that is about to catch on fire, and that would be horrible death. But say that's not the case, then the fire department needs to spend 8 hours trying to put out the car without put out the fire, because that baby just keeps burning. It will keep burning because it's self-fueling fire. It doesn't need the oxygen from outside. It has enough energy inside it to just keep burning. That's why it's such a great energy storage, because it's highly reactive. Worst case scenario with hydrogen car, on the other hand, just the fact of canister, 700 atmosphere canister depressurizing, say it's not even filled with hydrogen, it's filled with oxygen, even that would be a big explosion. It could cause a fatal accident, not only for the owner of the hydrogen car, but probably few cars around. The good thing is that it's a very rapid reaction, so at least, I don't know, that would be very fatal, very loud, very spectacular, but half an hour after the accident it's all burned out. It's not like it's gonna be burning like electric car. Yeah, so it's not even about green, whether it's green or not. I think electric cars are green enough for now, and let's get some proper infrastructure in place so more people can enjoy electric cars, because there's really no reason for everybody to use combustion engines. Get them cheap enough so people can afford them, and yeah, that'll be a good step in the right direction. Hydrogen, on the other hand, no. And if your argument is carbon neutrality, again, as long as you produce all that hydrogen from solar panels, this is just as dirty energy as any other. There's actually the sources of hydrogen are actually ranked on the scale, color scale. There's like green, black, blue, whatever. So some are more environmentally friendly, some are less. But again, it's still the thing about centralizing production. If it's centralized, it's not bad, even if it's not too green. Yeah, we're not gonna go to complete green and carbon neutrality just like that in just few years. It's gonna be a process of many years. And I'm glad they're researching it. I'm glad. So don't get me wrong that I'm just like crapping on hydrogen cars and saying that it's a waste of time. I'm not saying it's a waste of time. I'm glad the research is going on, but it's not gonna save us. It's not gonna save the planet, and I don't think anyone will ever have, or I don't think you will want to have a hydrogen car, even if they are available. Especially the early ones. And it's not like I have a better idea. Oh, and one last thing regarding the infrastructure, because the problem of electric cars right now is the lack of infrastructure, or I don't know, not adequate infrastructure. For the hydrogen cars, we would have to build a whole new infrastructure. Because again, the same problem. It's not like you can build thousands of hydrogen canisters, fuel cells, right? And just distribute them across the world. Transportation of it is going to be a nightmare. And how long can it last? How long can the hydrogen last in a pressurized in the container pressurized to 700 atmospheres. A week, a month. I don't know actually. I'm just guessing, but I'm guessing, you know, helium is the next smallest after hydrogen, right? Do you ever get the balloons for your kids? The helium balloons? They take about, what, maybe 2 days and they're deflated. Not because the seal was bad, it's because helium is just escaping through the lining of the balloon, because it's small. Nitrogen or hydrogen is even smaller. So it's going to be the same problem. The longer you keep it, it just depletes itself. Not even being used. So now you need an infrastructure where you can recharge those fuel cells pretty much on the spot, right? As it's needed. I don't even want to imagine how the shop would look like. What it would look like, you know, to have a shop where you recharge hydrogen cells. Like, do you produce hydrogen right there, or do you store hydrogen? Then you have the same problem. Now you have to store hydrogen, but I assume that would be at lower pressures. Just to recharge the cells. Now, what kind of technicians you have to hire, and how expensive would be the training for those technicians to work with such a volatile material like hydrogen. It's a huge safety concern, and that is pretty much the biggest problem of it. Safety, practicality. How do you make it practical and safe at the same time? It's not easy. But all of this needs to be considered before, because you as a hydrogen car user, you consider all those things because you just wanna have a car. What do you need a car for? To move around, to travel. Go to work, come back from work, right? Go, go somewhere on the weekend, occasionally a long haul drive, like visiting family or something, right? That's generally what you need the car for. So when you buy the car, you consider those, how useful is it gonna be for me? Is it gonna fulfill my needs, like regular needs, everyday needs? And now, how much money am I gonna have to spend on maintaining that thing? How much will it depreciate in value if I buy a new one? That is currently the problem of electric cars. And electric cars, because I keep saying that they're good for environment, and in a way, yeah, but in some ways it's actually really bad for the environment, because if it depreciates this quickly, that means it's gonna land on the junkyard pretty soon, because it's just not be worth a repair. So that's bad for the environment. I drive a car that 2008, right? It still serves me really well. It's got its problem because it's an old car, but I'm gonna use it until I can't fix it anymore. I don't know. So if this was an electric car, long ago I would have to buy a new one or replace it, or at least put like crap load of money into it to replace the battery or whatever. So, you know, in that sense, it's not exactly good for the environment, because you replace them too often, or they lose the value. Oh, I made a bridge. Ah. Beautiful soldering, but I made a bridge. Can you see it? See, on this scope you probably can't see it. It's right here. There's the bridge. Now this one's actually not connected. I could actually leave it like that. That wouldn't be an issue, but obviously I'm not going to. We don't want bridges on our chips. Magic touch. There you go. Oh. And we have crappy soldering here. Okay. Bridge on one side and crappy solder on the other. Okay, that's good. So yeah, hydrogen cars, not exactly something that will become a thing. And even, because I was considering, you know, if we find a better way of storing energy, right? Better than lithium, better than hydrogen. They suppose that storage charges fast and discharges slowly. So say the battery, you know, needs to charge for 15 minutes, and that gives you a range of 500 miles. Right? That'd be awesome. I don't think there's gonna be a storage like that, or at least not in the sense that it's completely rechargeable. If it's some kind of a hybrid where it just relies on some energy stored as a mass, and then you just kind of recharge it, kind of like a battery, right? Like a regular battery, right? Zinc carbon battery. Even if we have something like that, it's still a matter of infrastructure. Now, just considering United States, which is a pretty huge country, pretty big terrain over here. Oh, take a look at that. So even nothing wants to work today. So even considering that, or given the batteries are more efficient, they charge quickly, and they last longer, you still need charging stations. How long did it take to build the infrastructure for gasoline cars, for internal combustion cars? When I was a kid, in my town there were 2 gas stations in total. It's not a very small town, it's not a big town either. Now there are, I don't know how many, but say maybe 80 gas stations in the whole town. Plenty of them. Often one across the street from another. How long did that take? Well, that was actually in conjunction with Poland entering European Union, so there was a lot of investments going on, so so that was a little faster process than it normally is. But about 2 decades. About 2 decades to bring the infrastructure of my town to support all the car users. So now, even if the hydrogen cars are now available, you can purchase them. It's gonna take 2 decades at least for the infrastructure to catch up to allow you to actually use your car. You know, the thing that I can't get over is that high pressure, the 700 atmosphere pressure. It's terrifying, you know. I freak out about the lithium cells in the cars, and now we're talking 700 atmospheres of highly volatile gas. No. Even if that is available, even if that is a thing, I don't want it. Not only I don't want to have a hydrogen car, I don't want the hydrogen car to be anywhere near me. I don't want it to be parked next to my car. And this is something that I'm pretty sure I have a right to do. Like basically say that I don't want hydrogen car anywhere near me because it's dangerous, it's explosive, right? And that kind of prevents you from using or having a hydrogen car, you know, and that could very well happen because I literally do not want I don't even park next to electric cars. I don't want electric cars parked next to my car. Just safety, you know. It's not like I'm picky or anything. I'm kind of in the tech space, so I'm completely aware of what can happen to an electric car when it catches on fire. I don't want that happening next to my car. Not that I love my car that much, it's just, you know, it's not my problem. You can afford a electric car, that's fine, then you take the risks of it. I don't want to. And right now even the insurance on the electric cars is a little higher, plus all the data they're getting. It turns out every time you use a brake on an electric car or on Tesla, it reports as a aggressive braking incident. And that data is sent to your insurance company, and based on that they adjust your rates. But not even that. The insurance is higher because if your battery gets punctured and catches on fire, the car is totaled, so you're gonna want the insurance to pay for your car. Plus, it's gonna cost a lot of money for having the fire department trying to put it out, and then cleaning after it, like whole thing, right? It's not like the regular car having a slight accident. The flatbed comes in, pulls the car on the flatbed, and you just sweep the street and we're done. If there was an oil leak, you just spray it with the neutralizer or whatever, and it's done. Accident accident dealt with. With electric car, it's much more expensive, so the insurance is more expensive. Now imagine what insurance is going to be like on hydrogen car. where you literally have a bomb that you're using to drive around. So yeah, maybe you can afford it, right? But there's gonna be a repercussions for all of us. Your car explodes next to mine. It completely totals my car. But you weren't there, right? The car just exploded by itself, and it took 3 other cars on the parking lot. I don't know. Is the insurance gonna cover all those other cars, or is the manufacturer gonna step in and pay for that? Or is the manufacturer gonna say that it's your fault because you didn't maintain the car properly? And maybe that would be the case. Who knows? So, just like with flying cars, it's not the mother of technology not being there. The technology is there, technology works. It's just we're as a species, we are not ready to use such technology. And how to even regulate it? No, it's like really outlandish idea in my view, and it's nothing new. Because actually, my wife was asking me about it yesterday, like saying that, yeah, I've heard of that. It's a new technology. No, it's not a new technology. The patent is from what, 1826, was it? Somewhere in the 19th century. So it's an old idea. It's been proven to work. Yeah, the first engines were built then, but not very practical. So I don't know. Alrighty. And that is how it's done. And that is also why you will not have a hydrogen car. Sorry. Here it is. And so, friend of mine from Canada is actually a moderator from now on my Discord server. He does ECMs, TCMs, the board repair guy, right? And he does he does the difficult jobs when to open the ECM or TCM. Not only you have to desolder sometimes 140, 150 pins, but also cut through the case, the aluminum case, or just pry with IPA and spend hours. It sucks. That's why I work with Subis. This is what it takes to put Subi back together. Subarus are awesome. Alrighty, fellas. That's gonna do for the repair and my today's rant. I hope you're not offended that the hydrogen cars are not gonna happen. And well, if you wanna send me, because I'm sure I'm gonna get the comments saying that there's the company that does it, and there's the company, and there's a prototype, and there's these cars were being used, and it works. Again, I'm not arguing that it doesn't work. I'm just arguing that it's not going to work. It's just not practical. Just like the Concords. Every time you see the technology like that, think about the Concorde. And you'll understand why. Alrighty. Thank you guys very much for watching. Oh my god, who is this for? Steven. Stephen, thank you very much for your business. And actually, take a look at this before we close out. The sticker is gray, not black, as it usually is. And it's M301. I don't think I've ever done one of these before. AM301. It's usually 2 letters and 2 numbers at the end. This is the first one that is 301. So, good to know. I have quite a collection of these, and since I record everyone, I know whether, if I'm not sure whether I worked on one like this, I can just review my library and find out. That's pretty cool about it. Alrighty, Paul, Stephen, thank you very much for your business. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I shall see you in the next one.